ready for another lesson?
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Back Row Banter, your favorite casual movie talk podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Adam Schwartz, and on this week's episode, we'll be talking about The Exorcist Believer. But before we get to any of that, I'm joined today, of course, by No Shoes Nathaniel Gingrich.
No shoes in my house.
Shoeless Joe.
That's me.
What is that book? Shoeless Joe.
That's the White Sox.
Oh, that's the White
player.
Sox thing. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Shoeless Joe Jackson. Field of Dreams. We should put that on the short list. We don't do a lot of sport movies.
Played a ball game, a scrimmage in barefoot in high school.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why?
I forgot my cleats.
Oh, wow. That sounds horrible.
They allowed that? Like in a regulation game?
No, it was a scrimmage.
Oh, okay. I was going
Yeah.
to say, no way. That's crazy.
No,
I
yeah.
gotcha.
I just played barefoot that day.
A scrimmage.
A scrimmage.
That sounds terrible.
It wasn't bad. We took
Really?
care of our field.
Okay.
And
Because some are real rocky.
Yeah, yeah. But that one was okay. It wasn't too bad.
Good. Feet dirty afterwards, I'm assuming. Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Were you pitching that?
No, I played. I was playing in the outfield that time.
I gotcha.
So I had the grass too.
No, yeah. That's not too bad. Also joining us today is Toenail Ty, Tyler Verdelis.
Gross.
Yeah, real gross.
Have you ever lost a toenail?
No, pray to God, never do. Sounds painful.
You knocking on some wood?
I'm knocking on a lot of
Tyler
wood.
certainly has.
Yeah.
Tyler strikes me as the kind of kid that jumped off something really high and stabbed his foot with a nail.
Jesus.
I mean that did happen, but
There you
that
go.
wasn't. Yeah.
I swear, every
That's
kid,
actually a true story.
every kid I know that has at some point had like a cabin or like grew up on a farm. At some point, they stepped on a board or did something that put a nail through their foot. Like
It was before the subdivision behind like our old house when like we were all under one roof was developed and we were building a tree house,
there you go.
and one of the steps came off when we were coming up, and I was like,
no thanks.
"Don't worry about it, guys. I'll get it when we get down."
Forgot
Because I'm
about it.
fearless. No, I just thought that when I jumped, I was gonna miss it, and
Did the classic
I
thing
did
of
not.
looking where you're not supposed to go, and
Yeah,
that's where you went.
aim small, miss small.
That's right. Tell you when your car's out of control, you're supposed to look where you're like if you're going towards a tree, look away from the tree because you'll steer towards it
Right.
rather than.
Make sure you hold on to the steering wheel too, so you break your wrist like Daniel Ricciardo. You fucking idiot. But yeah, that was an experience. I walked up to the front of the house with a board in my foot, and my mom was pissed.
Yeah,
She was like, "What the fucking fuck?" And I probably got like stitches put in like 3 weeks before that.
How old were
She's
you
just
when this
saying, I
happened?
put her through shit, bro. Man, I was probably like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
tetanus. Ain't no joke.
Yeah, we had to go get a shot and all this other shit. My like fucking shoes were like brand new, and she was pissed off about that too.
Oh, it went
not
through
only
the
did I put
shoe?
a hole through them, they were also filled up with blood.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, she wasn't happy, but hey,
You're here.
she got me through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You still have both feet.
I have a ton of fucking stitches. I don't know somebody that has more stitches than I do.
You'd probably be up there for me. I don't know of anyone who has more stories of injuries than Tyler. Yeah.
Yeah, just get rocked. as a
Anyone
kid.
else ever
I
have
didn't
to
give
get
a shit.
stitches?
Yeah, I've had stitches. A couple times.
I've never had surgery.
Really?
Wow.
Not even like wisdom teeth?
Oh, I guess technically.
That's
yes.
the only like major
Outside of
surgery
that,
I've had.
Never surgery for like an actual like injury. From,
Yeah,
like,
right,
Falling,
right.
sports, being a kid, stupid shit.
I never broke a
I had a
bone.
hernia as a
Still,
kid.
we gotta knock on this wood a lot here, gentlemen. I've also not broke a bone.
Yeah, I've never broken a bone.
I
I've
haven't had any major bones. I've broken the shit out of toes and fingers, but they don't do anything for them. Oh, and I twist fractured a rib.
Well, that'll do it.
Yeah, I only
But
had,
it wasn't like completely broke. It was like a super hairline fracture.
Is
No
it-
big deal.
There's a titty twister that went wrong.
I had to get
Yeah.
stitches when I was like probably 5 or 6 because I was going into a car door and I was young, so I had to like pull myself up. So the passenger door was open. It was a minivan, and the passenger door was open. So I grabbed the door frame, and then whoever was in the passenger seat closed the door on my hand. And then I was sick, so I just ripped it out and then like cut my finger open.
Yikes.
So I still kind of have right here, kind of see the scar a little bit.
Oh yeah.
On my it's my right ring finger. But yeah, that was the only time.
Cursed now.
Yeah, ask me about stitches. Next time you see me, I'll let you know where I got some.
You're gonna be there a while.
Yeah, the only place.
Well, yeah, preference. You only get one.
Okay.
Just ask for one. Like every time. Yeah, we're not gonna sit there. I'm gonna tell you where
Right,
they're all
one
at.
per
Just-
customer. Yeah, come back tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Blake, you were saying?
Yeah, the closest I've ever gotten to that is I probably should have got stitches as a child. So on my middle finger on my left hand, like the inside of it, right next to the ring finger, there's a pretty lengthy cut, and it's got like some weird scar tissue. It's probably like from the second knuckle to like the tip of my finger. My dog bit me when I was little, and it was a pretty bad bite. And I just never got stitches. We kind of just like let that heal up. But that's something that's still like, if I rub that the wrong way, like putting a jacket on or like hit it on a desk or like catching a phone or something like that, it's definitely pretty painful. So if you ever seen it, and like I'll show you guys next time you see it. But yeah, it's quietly pretty gross. Obviously, it's not really visible to the naked eye.
Yeah.
But if you actually pay attention to it and feel it, it's like, yeah, it feels like I have like an extra bone in my finger. So
My mom.
shout out my dog.
This-
Shout out Saba.
This is random, but you said a dog attacked you. My mom and my dog got attacked by a different dog while she was walking it the other day. She was just walking it on the street that I walk it down. My dog down. I walk my dog down the street all the time, and then I guess she said some dog was in the yard on a leash, and it broke off the leash and just ran up and attacked her, bit her lightly, and then broke skin on my dog. Like my dog's paw was all messed up.
gosh.
Yeah, it was kind of bad.
What kind
I
of
guess.
dog you got? Is it a little dog?
No, he's like 60, 65 pounds. He's an English golden doodle, so he's a pretty big dog.
Okay,
But he's
so
not-
he could quote unquote take a beating a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. It wasn't like a small
Yeah.
dog. It wasn't like he was in danger or anything like that. But he's my dog's a lot of bark, no bite. He's a very friendly dog, but he just barks at you a lot. So he'll other dogs, when he sees them, he barks, but he'll never attack. He's just yelling at you. I don't know why. I love my dog, but he's kind of weird sometimes. I don't know. But of course, they're rounding out the squadron over there, healing from his dog wounds. It's big body and blood BlakeHolder.
Hey, what up? What up? I
How
was
you
wondering
doing?
what name I was going to get this week, man. But,
I figured I could go
guess-
for the quadruple iteration and get away with it. I think it went all right.
Yeah, I didn't quite see that one coming, but I'm
Wait, so
kind of
you're
ashamed of myself
saying
that I didn't
you're
do
saying
that.
to follow up on my question last week? You're saying you were watching this movie and you thought of what name you were going to get?
A
Or
little
was it
bit,
after
a
the
little
fact?
bit. Yeah, I was like, what was it? Where could I go? And yeah, I didn't have anything.
Don't worry, I'm always going to think of something. Even when
Yeah,
it's
man,
not
everything's-
obvious, I'm always going to think of something.
Okay.
I got it.
Yeah,
I got it.
but everything's all good here, man. I mean, I'm actually really anticipating to talk about this film, man. It's
I agree. I think it's
we'll
going to be
leave it. We'll,
interesting.
we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
I mean, if you guys are good, I'm good to just get right into the review. Nathaniel did step away for a second, I think, to run to the bathroom, so we might want to wait for him. That or I can just give the rundown. Honestly, let's just do that. I'll give the rundown, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the main review segment of the podcast. I've never given the rundown before, so let me check my notes here, so just so I have everything in order. Of course, this is the main review segment. We have two sections. What does he say? It's split up to two sections, the non-spoilers and the spoilers sections. Pretty self-explanatory. In the non-spoiler section, we'll go over the IMDb, give you a rundown of the movie, all that sort of things. We'll all recommend it, yes or no, because there's no nuance on the internet. And then from there, once we give our recommendations, we'll head into spoilers. And if you've not seen the movie, we'll give you a timestamp that you can jump to in the description if you want to skip over those. So we'll give you a heads up when we're heading into spoilers. I think that's it. Is that all I need to say?
Did we rank it off on the entropy list?
Yeah, and then we rank it on our entropy list after spoilers. So you have the timestamp there to jump to, of course.
Sorry about that, folks. Needed a
It's
quick
all right.
snack.
It's all right.
Yeah, no worries. Real quick, fellas, for the group, what are you guys playing in the background for today?
The Diamondbacks game eventually once it comes on.
Playoff baseball.
Fair.
You could. I think the original Exorcist is on Max if you want to throw
Yeah.
that on.
It is. That's what I
Okay.
was.
That's where I
I was
watched
gonna say, I
it.
know it's somewhere.
Yeah, it's on Max. HBO Max.
just- don't know.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in my office, so I don't know what I have available on my Xbox anymore. Because
But
I
the,
rarely watch shows on in here.
The baseball boys are at Back Row HQ this week.
Right. True fans of the
Fair enough.
of America's pastime. Jinx.
Trash ball.
Whoa. Says the Packers fan. What happened, dog?
We're better than you.
Right, but you lost to the Raiders.
Hey man, yeah,
Oh.
Ty. I didn't want to bring it up, you guys.
You guys lose to everyone.
Except the
that's
Commanders.
true.
Let's go.
The
1 and
Packers
3,
do look
baby.
kinda
1 and
ass,
3.
though, man. Yeah.
Bears
yeah.
to the
I
bowl.
hate to get on the football.
Are we
rant,
1 and
but
4?
yeah.
I think we're 1 and 4. Bears to the bowl, baby. Anyway,
Hey. Yeah.
IMDb summary. Let's get into it. This is a new movie, of course, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 51 minutes and an IMDb rating of 5.1 out of 10. That's the lowest we've had in a while.
You
I
think?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds. Yeah, that's low.
I thought you were going to say ever, but you qualified
No,
it in a while.
In a while.
Yeah, I'm
I don't
sure
know the
it's for
lowest
a while.
ever, but it's been a while since I've seen anything in the fives.
It's been a while.
There we go.
There we go.
Sorry.
Directed by David Gordon Green, who listeners of the pod may know from his Halloween trilogy remake that we have reviewed all 3 of. So he's back here doing now an Exorcist sequel slash requel, more sequel than anything though. It feels pretty direct. Written by Peter Sattler, David Gordon Green, and Scott Teems. You know what? Sorry. That's the screen story written by Peter Sattler and David Gordon Green. That's the screenplay there. The cast includes Linda Blair, Ellen Burstyn, Jennifer Nettles, Leslie Odom Jr., Olivia O'Neill, Ann Dowd, Lydia Jewett, and
I think that's the main cast, more or less.
yeah, I think so as well. I'm trying to see if there's any. Norbert Leo
Yeah.
Butz is the other one
He
that
was
I'm
the other
missing.
one. Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
dad, right?
Correct, yeah. And I'll throw in E.J. Bonilla, who plays Father Maddox.
Okay.
I think I'll leave it there. There's, of course, a lot of other appearances here and there, a lot of other characters, but that's the main cast, I believe, that we are rolling with here. The IMDb summary reads as follows. Give me a second for this load. When 2 girls disappear into the woods and return 3 days later with no memory of what happened to them, the father of one girl seeks out Chris McNeil, who's been forever altered by what happened to her daughter 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good summary. I like that. Yeah. We're good.
You're in?
I'm in on that summary. Thumbs up for me. To fill in any gaps there, I mean, that gets most of it. It's an Exorcist movie. It is now. There is this Exorcist 2 that I saw.
Yeah, I was doing research into this now as well too. So there is, in the first one, there's The Exorcist, obviously,
Right.
and then there's The Exorcist 2, which no one really likes
Okay.
or talks about. Now the third one, The Exorcist 3,
Oh, there's a third one. I didn't even know.
there is. That's written and directed by the original writer of the book, The Exorcist,
Oh.
William Peter Blatty.
Interesting.
And then apparently there's 2 versions of that. There's one that's like his version, and that's a director's cut, and then there's like the studio version. And both apparently are pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Then
Right. I've heard that to my understanding as well.
there is an Exorcist The Beginning, which I remember coming out in like 2002 or 2004 or
Let me see if I
whatever.
can find that.
That also has 2 versions.
That's 2004.
That has one that's directed by Rennie Harlan, which was the one that was released to the wider public.
Stellan Skarsgård's in that one.
Yes, he's playing the young Max von Sydow in that, because that's a
Okay.
prequel.
Oh, okay.
That has the one released to the public was directed by Rennie Harlan, who did like Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and Freddy vs. Jason, as well as like the second Ghost Rider. And then, but the other version is called Dominion, and that's directed by Paul Schrader, who wrote and directed who wrote Taxi Driver and like other Scorsese joints in like the 70s, and is also a really good director in his own right. And apparently that's really good, but it's just harder to find as well too. And now we've got the Lega sequel, which basically cuts out all of that. Oh, in addition, there's also a FX TV series from 2016 that functions as a Lega sequel that ran till 2018 with like different actors playing like the Chris McNeil and Regan McNeil roles. And apparently that's also very good, but no one watched it, so it only lasted 2 seasons.
Okay.
And now we have the Lego sequel to the original.
This is a direct sequel to the original, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
It cuts out all the other stuff.
With that being said, it's a 5.1 on IMDb, lowest we've reviewed in a minute.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say, guys, I'm pretty positive on this overall.
Yeah?
Much better. Of course, we say it all the time, expectations make your experience. So expectations for me, pretty mid. I didn't really know whether to be up or down on this coming into it. I heard pretty okay things about it. And honestly, it was probably a little bit above my expectations. I thought it was overall a pretty solid movie. It doesn't do anything crazy. There's nothing here that stands out as like, oh, you need to go see this because of X reason. But as just like an overall horror movie, it's just a solid like B horror movie for me. And you know, it does a serviceable job paying tribute to the original while without like overdoing it. It's somewhat of its own idea, has some unique things going on in terms of like the dual possession. So honestly, pretty positive on this one personally. I would say overall, I'm probably a recommend. Now, if you're not a horror fan or if you aren't like a mega fan of the original, probably not something you need to run out and see. But if it's October, if you're looking for a good horror movie to go see in theaters, I think this is just a pretty good one to go see. I don't see any problem with it. I think you'll be pretty pleased overall.
Fair.
How are you guys thinking or feeling?
Don't think I'm rocking as hard as you are, man. Me and Nathaniel exchanged a brief text about this the other day. I'm nowhere near where you are at this.
Really?
Movie sucks.
Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough.
There are some redeeming qualities, though. I guess we'll chat when we get into spoilers, right? But so there are some redeeming qualities, particularly in like the beginning. I would say that it has some stuff going for it. But yeah, just as a whole, it's kind of like, man, I don't quite know what's going on, right? They bring back the legacy character, or two of them for that matter, and don't really play important roles. Kind of, it's a little strange in that regard. I'm not quite a fan of like the dual possession type of thing. But yeah, I mean, we'll chat further in spoilers, of course. But yeah, that's kind of my brief thoughts. We have to, and I know I repeated a ton of like the Breaking Bad meme, but like we have to stop letting David Gordon Green get rights to these classic horror films.
Getting away with this.
Shits. Like we have to stop this. Halloween 2018 had some things going for him, but I mean, at the 4 movie clip right now, he's shooting like 1 for 4.
Yeah, he's 1 for 4 right now.
It's tough, man. Yeah, hopefully some things can change. But yeah, that would be my take. Is we got to stop letting this guy reboot, requel, sequel, whatever term you want to put onto some of these horror classics.
Okay.
Tyler?
Yeah, I will also be on the not super high valued movie for me. Obviously has a little bit of that, it's a horror movie, so we're playing in our October realm, but I say it every time we get a new horror movie on here. We are sick individuals, and if you cannot get my jaw to hit the fucking ground, or for me to like say, what the is that?
Right.
Or even, on the kind of chills kind of side, if you can't make me do one of those, then it's kind of hard for me to say what you wanted to do. But it's not terrible. I did have fun with it. And we'll talk a little bit more, but some of these movies are rather spoiled for life for me, because of the scary movies or something of that nature, and so some aspect of these is just probably going to always be ruined, which whatever. but yeah, I'm probably going to be a not recommend for the sole reason that you can wait and have just as much fun in this with this in your living room with all the lights off with your friends or something like that. So
yeah, I don't know, this is a tricky one for me, man. Like there's an element definitely here that I think we haven't maybe talked about so much before, which is just like you're making a sequel to The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not the 70s or anything where like the sequels like The Exorcist in and of itself is like it almost exists in a world where like you didn't even know there were sequels to it, like kind of thing,
Sure.
or like no one talks about the sequels kind of thing,
Right.
and it just is The Exorcist as up there with your top 5 year in year out scariest movies of all time. You have your Shinings, your Alien, your The Exorcist. It's iconic.
It's a well-known IP and franchise. Everyone knows The Exorcist,
right? And
you've heard of it.
And it is a genre in and of itself now. Exorcism movies are a thing,
right?
They are a subgenre of horror, and so like. There is this part to me which is like, if you come at the king, you best not miss, kind of thing. And I think I'm one of the kind of people that I mostly like the Halloween trilogy. Like I've come to a place with it where I think there's some interesting ideas going on there, and as a trilogy, I think it probably functions pretty well.
Right.
If you were to go back and watch all 3 in a row, I think it got done dirty by kind of the delays and everything, and the second one is very much a filler movie, but still coming on to shifting that David Gordon Green over to The Exorcist as opposed to the Halloween franchise. I just came away feeling like there was a difference between storytelling sensibilities on the directors and writers side and the story that was there for The Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
I think the original plays so much on who it happens to, and the first one's just this emotional assault. Basically, it's just this whole thing of you know what you're going in for in some ways. And even now, like even if someone says, we're going to watch The Exorcist, you know what's going to happen. But even then, when it is confronting you there in the movie itself, it is very whiplash tonal. Like you are very in the moment with it. And in this, I felt like it never got those teeth the same way. And I left feeling like I liked parts of it, and there was ideas in there that I thought were interesting, but that it really it similar to Blake, it got bogged down in some of what it felt like it had to do to be a legacy sequel, and then it also never really finalized it in a way that that was as satisfying as I wanted it to be. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. I think of particularly the ending of this movie is a bit strange, but we'll talk a little bit more about that, obviously in spoilers and everything on there. But man, in terms of recommend, not a recommend, I feel like I'm gonna be a not a recommend, but I still like, there's worse ways to pass 2 hours,
Sure.
So yeah, that's about as far as I want to talk about it before getting into spoilers, but we'll go from there.
Question for the group. If someone has seen all 3 of the Halloween movies, where would you guys, and we talked about the David Gordon Green, like where he ranks in terms, or where he's hitting in terms of it being Blake referencing, saying he's 1 for 4. Where would you rank Exorcist the Believer within all of 4 of those films? So the 3 Halloweens and now this one.
Oh man,
it's tied with Halloween Ends for me as kind of the 2-3 spot.
Okay.
Halloween Kills is definitely the worst one for me. Halloween 2018 is still the best.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of floating in between the middle of them.
I would 100% agree with that. Yeah. That's probably what I would have him.
Yeah, I think I'd have it placed. I don't know if it'd be between 2 and 3. I'd probably go between 3 and 4.
Sure.
Between this and Halloween Kills, though, I'd still have Halloween Kills at the bottom.
Yeah. Tie you in the same spot?
Honestly, I really couldn't even give you an answer. I don't remember the last time that I watched any of those, and I really couldn't give you an honest opinion as to where I think it would line up in those. So
no, that's fair.
I will defer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot in and of itself. Those are pretty forgettable.
100%.
Those last 2 especially, yeah. Okay, well, with all of that being said, we're going to go ahead and head into spoilers. So if you have not seen The Exorcist Believer, go ahead, check the episode description where I've left a timestamp you can jump to where you'll be taken to our ranking of the movie up upon our Entropy list. Spoiler times. Nathaniel, what we got this week?
Creepy crickets.
It's the sound of my theater. Just kidding. People are talking in my screening. It was getting really annoying to the
That
point where
sucks.
to the point where halfway through I said, "Hey, can you guys please stop talking?" Guy goes, "Oh,
I was
sorry."
literally
I
in
was
there
like, "Thanks."
by myself.
Good. I wish it was the case.
Yeah, I think there was 2 other people in my theater, which kind of I think brings me to the first point, which is like I don't know that as many people know about this coming out as people think that they do.
Right.
Oh,
Not a ton
really?
of a decent amount of advertising, I would say, here and there, but like not as much as you'd think.
Yeah, I had an interesting viewing on this one, where I ended up going Sunday night, and it was an interesting crowd. I think Monday was a holiday, so there's a lot of teenagers there. So yeah, I had like one of those crowds, not the best crowd to watch a movie by any means.
Yeah.
So yeah, ton of like screaming, jumping at the jump scares. You know what I mean? Teenage jokes, yelling like penis and vagina through the middle of the movie.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Real mature.
No
But
shot.
I guess
Cool.
I'm sure that played a role of why I didn't like this film either.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a really interesting viewing that I had on Sunday.
I'd be fucking pissed.
It was bad, dude. It was bad.
Yeah, we there wasn't very many people in my theater, but that was okay. I wasn't mad about that. I was also seeing it midday on a Tuesday or on a Monday, so I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah, mine was a 10 o'clock showing on a Monday night, so there was probably 3 or 4 groups of people. But of course, the people right in front of us were the ones talking.
Yeah.
For most of the movie, they were talking like, you know how right as like the production companies' logos were coming up, they were talking. And I was like, I know they're gonna keep talking. Like it's like I can forgive it in those moments. Sometimes I think as soon as those go on, you should shut up. But they were talking through that.
Sure.
I was like, if they're talking now, they're gonna be talking the whole time. And sure enough, every time it got quiet, I could hear them.
That sucks.
Yeah, it was really annoying. So I told them to stop halfway through, and for the most part, they did, which was nice.
Yeah.
And then they gave me some weird
Bring back
looks. going
theater
on in the
etiquette,
theater.
man.
Yeah, no, 100%. I get there's not a lot of
Like
people in the
golf
movie. I get there's not a lot of people in the screening, but there are people in the screening. You are not alone,
Right,
and
for
it's
sure.
it's a horror movie too. On top of it all, so it's like you really ruin any tension or anything when I can just hear you talking through any of those scary moments. It's just it was so rude, and I don't understand it. I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, what could you possibly
Right.
be talking about?
Yeah, I don't care. Just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, just please
Yeah.
just stop.
And then
Anyway,
you factor in like if they don't have like A-list or anything, that's like they paid $20 to go do that.
right?
It's crazy.
Just wait. Yeah, go watch. Yeah, if you want to talk through a movie, like go watch a movie at home, please,
Right.
listener. If you're talking to movies, whew, I don't know if I want you listening.
And there are times
That's-
where I
that's
think
a
it's
strong sentiment, actually. You can
totally-
listen,
It's
I don't
totally
care that
fine
much.
to talk through a movie.
Yeah, some.
Yeah, I think if you're at home,
But like,
certain situations.
Yeah, 100%.
I remember I saw the trailer for this first time in Oppenheimer, and that was a packed cinema.
Yep.
yeah,
And like everyone in the audience was like, as soon as the trailer started, like the trailer was good. It was like,
yeah.
it was like, oh, okay, what's going on? Oh, it's The Exorcist. Damn. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
You know, you've sold me.
Yeah,
I don't need
for
to see
sure.
anything more. And
I think I had the same situation. It was Oppenheimer, and someone goes after the trailer plays, "Oh, I'm not seeing that," and
Right.
everyone laughed.
And
Yeah.
like everyone, it was like the whole audience was like, and I was like, man,
Yeah.
this is what movie theaters are about.
Right.
Like I'm in, yes. And then like I don't know if that somewhat got my expectations up or anything, but I mean, man, there was a lot of this that I thought it had a lot of potential, but it really didn't bring it home for me in some places. And yeah, it was a weird movie. It's weird the choices that they made.
Yeah.
We're in spoilers, so let's dig into it.
yeah,
One, they assemble the fucking Avengers of Exorcists. Like, the whole premise of like, hey, exorcism has always been this Catholic thing, like, but really, it's everyone has like always done it and
there's always
everything.
kind of been this ritual
Right,
of expelling bad energy
from
I think is
different
what they say.
cultures and that kind of thing. Okay, and I can understand the thought process of widening the scope to that, and,
Right.
and taking it out of the Catholic Church. Which,
Right.
yeah, sure. Don't trust the Catholic Church. Like,
Right.
fair enough.
Yeah,
But part of what makes The Exorcist so great is that it does all of those things and it plays them completely seriously. That, yeah, you're not supposed to necessarily trust the Catholic Church. And yeah, Chris and Reagan are a white upper class family where Chris is a successful actress and is out there and has the money to take Reagan to all this stuff. But part of the horror is the fact that it's happening to these people. Right. That if it can happen to them, it can happen to anyone. And yeah, you might have to trust in something that you don't really realize and is from this weird part of Christianity that you don't necessarily, if you're outside the bubble, you know nothing about it. And by taking that away, you lose some of that. And you lose kind of the not the rules of, but the structure of the universe that you're trying to create in the movie itself. And that's where I point to saying I just don't necessarily think that the storytelling sensibilities of David Gordon Green necessarily line up completely with the emotional kind of impact of The Exorcist, and particularly William Friedkin's take on it, where it's this much more emotional, harrowing experience. And this is much more kind of the, well, yeah, but exorcisms happen to everyone as well too, and we want to explore that more kind of thing. And I think because of that, because of the dual possessions, which I'd be interested to hear what Blake says on this one, why he didn't like it, but I thought was an interesting idea.
I think so too.
I think it just gets so bogged down in the fact that they have to go back to get Chris and get and bring her into the story, and you could have done more interesting stuff with the dual possession and how that affects a white middle class upper family and a black single father, and what the differences on those be, and what the duty of care might be, and how those are going to be, even though they are linked by this horrific event. But instead we spend 20 minutes going to find out what 90-year-old Ellen Burstyn is up to.
And those themes are touched upon but never expounded upon.
Correct.
They are present in the movie, and it's they want you to think about these things, but they never really ask you any questions that consider any serious thought and really provoke you in any way. It's kind of just you do notice things when they go to the hospital, it's a team of all black doctors helping out what's the character's name?
Angela,
and then a team of white doctors helping out the other daughter, and that kind of thing. Those things are present there, but it's never really something they delve into, which I think could have been this movie's emotional core,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And even when the two parents meet, when Barry Odom Jr. and meets the white family, there's tension there, racial tension there, and then it's kind of just left to sit, and then they separate the families too for the second act of it. And then they can each go on their individual quests, where it's you could have, and they leaned on Leslie Odom Jr.'s, they leaned on his kind of story, when it would have been interesting to see how, like you said, how he handles it versus how the white family handles it. And instead we kind of just see one side of that. It felt like they want us to care about this dual possession and these two families, but I really only end up caring about one.
Right.
And just the way they kind of write the other parents. So yeah, I agree with you. I think there was some interesting things that maybe could have been touched upon, but instead they kind of presented to us and go, psych, let's just go kind of more of a generic route with it. Yeah.
That was kind of my big spiel, I guess, that I had that had been percolating in my mind, my mind brain since I'd seen the movie, and maybe why there was some elements that I didn't just mesh with as well. Someone else talk now, since I've talked.
Blake,
I got you. I'll let some thoughts go here. I mean, as far as I agree with the racial aspect of the film. That was interesting, right? To see how the same phenomenon, for lack of a better term, or the same bad situation can affect two different families of different walks of life, racial backgrounds, things of that nature, and they'll have different kinds of plans of action of how they want to accomplish said goal, right? So that was interesting. But I guess the problem that I had with the entire dual possession is there was no clarification on how it happens, and as a viewer, it's hard to piece together how it even happens.
Okay.
Right? Because you're aware that Angela lost her mother, right?
Yep.
So the girl, what's the other girl's name? Catherine.
Yep.
Catherine, yeah. So they go out to the woods, right? And I can see how Angela could become possessed, right? She's trying to conjure up some spirits and talk to her mom, but like there's no rational reason for how Catherine becomes possessed.
Right.
Because we don't have any background of like, okay, is she trying to talk to like her grandmother at the same time? Or, you know, it could be anything.
Right.
But there's no justification for how she's possessed as well. So that was the only thing to me where I'm just like, I don't know if I can buy into that because I can't quite comprehend from my knowledge of other possession films of how multiple people would be possessed just because they're there at the same time.
Yeah, and I think
you know what I mean?
It almost kind of gets in that a little bit with like the when the in the 11th hour the Catholic Church shows up like fucking Sam in Civil War. And like
on your left,
yeah, just to
the
take
power
over.
of Christ compels.
And then like you see the demons start to kind of affect him, or you know, and then it does leap from their body and kind of and it twists his head around and does all that. And I like
Cool effect. Why are you touching him?
well, yeah, I mean, because he wasn't there at the beginning when they said don't touch him,
Right.
But the
You think he would know?
You think you?
Right, that's the next thing. Right.
But regardless, he didn't, and like I guess you could see that was like the demon could kind of possess people by contact and could get more people. But I see what you're saying as well, Blake, too. That like there isn't the kind of and tying into Adam's point as well too. Because of that, you end up definitely caring for the Angela character more, and I think part of that is just the filmmakers know that they're going to kill the Catherine character at the end of it, so you don't have to in that kind of thing, and that's maybe when you take a step back from it and look at the scope of everything, you're like, well, then that's not great writing. But when you're in the movie itself, that's you're kind of just along for the ride at that point. But that's a great point, Blake.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately, that's one of the biggest parts of the movie, right? And that was a huge concern to me, as well as just other pieces of the movie. There's just so much like exposition dumps, and like David Gordon Green thinks like the audience is like the dumbest people in the world when you're watching the film, and I hate to be insulted like that, for lack of a better term. So
yeah, the writing does leave
even with
some to be desired for sure.
Yeah, man. Even with them bringing back the legacy character in Ellen Burstyn, right?
Yeah.
So they bring her back, but it's more so just like bring her back to be like, yeah, I know who this demon is, and she makes the worst fucking decision of anybody who would have the knowledge of what that demon is.
Right. You're like 90 years old. Why are you going to that room by yourself?
Why are you going to your room by yourself?
And she even says, I'm not even able to perform the exorcism. Like, I don't really know how to do it. I just know a lot about it. And then lo and behold, she goes and tries to just perform an exorcism on her own.
For sure. She says like 2 words, right? 2 sentences that whatever that's going to do to anybody who has knowledgeable of possession films, right? The Catherine character like sits down on the ground, and then she goes to like comfort her, like that would be the end of it. Like that was the exorcism, right? And then she gets gouged in the eyes by a cross. And then by Catherine, and then the scene cuts, and then it's her in a hospital with bandages on her face. Then it's just an exposition dump of the last act of the movie from her sitting in a hospital. Yeah. And that's when I think I just like audibly laughed out loud. I was like, "This is crazy, bro. There's no way they're getting away with this."
Yeah, I wonder how much the actress's age. What's her name again?
Ellen Burstyn.
Yeah, I wonder how much her age played into it. Where like they couldn't have her on set for multiple days and stuff like that, and they couldn't make her a bigger part of the movie because she's in her 90s, isn't she?
Yeah. Again, at that point, though,
but like, why are they giving her? She's just a ton of exposition dump when she's in the hospital.
Right.
Yeah, I understand. Like, I definitely get that side of it, and I feel like we as media consumers and media literate, like podcast reviewers or whatever, if you want to call us that, like, can see why. Like from the like business side of it, yes, you have to have the legacy characters in. You got to tie them in some way, and then from like the structure side of it, if you're going to do these legacy sequels, there's always bits that mirror the original in terms of the structure. So in the original Exorcist, you have the 20 minutes that starts in Iraq, and this you have the 20 minutes that starts in Haiti, and at the climax, the emotional thing where you in the original where you realize, oh god, this is fucked, truthfully, is when Reagan starts masturbating with the crucifix, and then so you have to have the mirror in this and bring back the crucifix, and what's going to be, well, we're not going to sexually assault a child now, so blind Ellen Burstyn with the crucifix instead. Like you can almost piece the things together once you have the points out for you, right?
Right.
And that's, I think, like the business corporate, if you want to call it, filmmaking that really grinds my gears and our gears collectively, you know.
Yeah, I just felt like if those were the limitations, which I think that's likely that they are, that they just couldn't have her be a main character for most of the movie.
She injured her back on the original Exorcist. She's had a few spines since then.
Yeah.
So like she's never been as mobile as it was from then, and like bringing her back from this, there was an element of it that almost felt just like cruel in some ways.
Sure.
Like,
but if you have those limitations, you should write around them. Instead, it felt like they wrote themselves into them.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, just an odd choice to use that character in that way, and also writing the whole Reagan character out of the film. I don't know if that actress just didn't want to be in it that much.
I have to imagine that's what
I have to imagine. But the second she said, "Oh, she just didn't like me and disappeared," I knew exactly what was going to happen, which was she was going to show up in one scene at the end. Like she said that, I knew exactly how that was going to play out.
The other thing that we're not addressing with this as well too is that the production company who bought the rights to Exorcist paid $400 million for it and has to do a trilogy.
Oh.
So
yeah, I was gonna say
that's I think also too where like they're keeping Reagan out of it until the end, and also why the Ann Dowd character doesn't really get very much of a resolution ending, and even the
shout out Ann Dowd.
Yeah, you always need an Ann Dowd whenever you're making a creepy ass movie. But I think that's also why there's not really a resolution with like the Catherine Angela thing, and it almost just kind of ends, and it's like, oh, the devil won, and you kind of got to deal with it, and like beyond just whatever moral thing you want to make about that, it's just kind of like a very limp fart of an ending in some ways. I don't know, man.
Let's talk about some positives. Leslie Odom Jr. I thought was really good.
Yeah.
For what he was given, I thought he was great. Shout out my boy from Hamilton, making an appearance, returning on the Entropy list. He was originally in Glass Onion, was when we first saw him. That was his big breakout role. I really hope when you get those kind of actors like in the limbo between kind of making climbing their way to A-list down out of like they're kind of known from Hamilton,
character actor,
and he's trying to build up his portfolio of acting and stuff like that. A horror movie like this can make or break you, where like you get stuck in these kind of horror movies and movies of this level, and you're not really going to climb. And I really hope this doesn't happen to him, because I think he is a shining part of this movie for me. His acting really did carry a lot of it and carried my interest in the story and in his character and his relationship with Angela and his wife. Like his acting did do a lot for me in this movie. So I really want to shout out to him. The other thing too is I mentioned earlier how like I felt like they paid a lot of homage to the original in terms of some of the stylistic choices. Watched the original the night before I watched this one. So many zooms, dude. So like the camera won't stop zooming, and like that's a big thing of like the 70s when they started getting those more zoom lens. You'll see that a lot in those movies. But it just wouldn't stop. Camera's always moving, always doing the vertigo effect and everything. And I felt like they did it a perfect amount in this one, where like you did have those zoom effects that were very reminiscent of the first one.
Sure.
But it was never overdone. It wasn't like they tried to mimic the first one in that sense. It just felt like they were kind of paying homage and to that style.
That was one thing I did think though as well too, that the cinematography, like, I don't know, there's something about original Exorcist that it's more painterly. Whereas like this one is it is a warmer tone of a film than this one has overall as well.
Whereas the originals, I mean, that's just
part of that is the 70s,
right? The 70s, yes, but I think you should do a better job at matching this. This had a much more of a color palette of a Halloween.
Yes, that's
than
what
it did,
I thought.
Much
as
warmer
well
than I think it should have. I think Exorcist, you should definitely lean, after watching the original, you should have leaned on cooler tones and cooler color grading, and instead it leaned a lot into warmer tones. And it visually did look a lot pretty close to like the style of the Halloween films, and I'm assuming they shot it on similar equipment and stuff, because it looked a lot like those movies.
It definitely looked like that overall.
Yeah, and I think you gotta get away from that and lean more on the Exorcist.
Speaking to that as well too, one thing that I noticed that they did take from Exorcist, original Exorcist, was the sound transitions. from scene to scene where like you'll see the dogs fighting and like or someone goes and they go to scream and then it cuts to the next scene and the screen is actually a car screaming or screeching around a corner.
The sound bridges.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So that those were used a lot for effect. That is something that mirrors the original as well too.
Right.
I want to call out to Jennifer Nettles as the mom. She is from acting most known on Righteous Gemstones as the mom, but she is also was the lead singer of the band Sugarland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't know.
The
to be honest, don't really know them.
Country band
that much.
They were pretty popular in like
for her.
Middle thousands,
They were
2010s. Yeah.
Oh, she's Amy Lee. Okay.
Yeah. She's the mom.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously Ann Dowd's always great. I thought the girls did a pretty good job.
Yeah, for the most part.
That was one other thing as well too. Again, kind of like Exorcist. If you're coming at Exorcist, you best not miss. And I felt like the makeup effects could have been a little bit better for the girls.
Could agree with that. Yeah, I could agree with that.
And no green soup vomit. Come on. If we're playing the hits, we got to at least get some pea soup vomit in there from original Exorcist. Like,
yeah. some goo.
That's true. It's very it's just like black now. It's like black goo.
Like there's something
like silly putty.
more aggressive about like the imagery in the original Exorcist is just like top tier. Like,
of course.
It is just,
if you try and compare this to the original, you're doing yourself a disservice right off the bat.
That is true. That is true.
But
what else are you going to compare it to? You can't just like you can't just say you can't compare the sequel to the original. But like what should you compare?
It's better
to,
than the Pope's Exorcist. I'll tell you that.
What's the Pope's Exorcist?
That's the one with Russell Crowe that came out.
Oh, okay.
There's other Exorcist movies out there that you could compare it to.
Sure.
Because The Exorcist I think it's really highly rated as far as one of the best horror movies that will ever kind of be around.
It's one of those ones that breaks the mold out of horror movie into the fact that like it was a cultural shift and it was a good movie as well too. Like in that same tier of your Jaws and your Alien and your, original Halloween and that kind of thing,
Right.
So there is an element of just you're never gonna recapture that. It needs to be, you need to come at it from a different angle, like a Hereditary or something like that.
Yeah.
But
I'm just looking real quick. Exorcist has a 8.1 on IMDb.
Oh yeah, I mean it's considered, it's up there in greatest American films. Like it is truly unique.
I will agree with you though, as far as acting goes. I think everybody did a really good job with kind of what they were given.
Yeah.
The whole Ellen thing. It's a really poor way to go about your fan service. For sure. There was zero bearing as far as like the plot goes. They just like had her get fucked up, and then like they're like, okay, go sit in a hospital.
You can lie down now.
Yeah. So yeah, again, there probably could have been a few more factors that played into that, but there's other ways to kind of perform movie magic, and have a much better effect. So there probably were ways that they could have gotten her in here more if she was written in more.
Yeah.
One last thing I'll bring up. Did anyone else feel like they were going towards a reveal with the white dad? That he had done something or like had caused something?
Kinda. Yeah.
And then it just like they kind of backed off at it from the last sec. Because there's like the other shot where like he's head outside and then the two other kids are like over talking to police, and that seemed significant.
Mm-hmm.
And then like he kept talking about like how he was going to have to pay for his sins and stuff like that.
Right.
And then it was like he had the kind of final choice, and again I thought they were going to end up tying it into like why Catherine was on there, which I thought it was interesting at the end where the reveal of you didnn't want me, you wanted the wife, and like that kind of stuff. That was
interesting.
That was well done,
that was well
again speaks to the emotional heart of the movie. But like I thought we were going to get some sort of tie-in from the Catherine side of things, but it felt like that was almost a plot point that got rewritten at some point.
Almost not even rewritten, but edited out.
Yeah, or
potentially
something, or like,
for runtime sakes, probably
because we need to
because
make this neater kind of thing.
That's another thing I want to mention. This runtime, what did we say was 151, something like that.
Yep.
Could have been 130. They definitely could have condensed this down to 90 minutes, or at least maybe shave 10 minutes off. I did think there were some slower moments and some pacing that if they just tightened it up a little bit, you can shave a good 10 to 15 minutes off of this at least. So that's another little just knock on it. I think we've kind of marked, I think most horror movies are perfect at 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Midsommar and Hereditary would be the exceptions I can think of, and of course you can go longer.
Our number one movie is The Shining, which I think is like 220.
Exactly, yeah. So of course there are exceptions to that, but it has to be very well earned, and this movie does not earn a 151 runtime in my opinion. And so I think they could have used some time either more effectively or just condensed it a little bit here and there to get this a little bit shorter. But yeah,
I think that I would agree. And sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I guess while we're just kind of like on time, I definitely agree with the runtime kind of playing, or like some spots were a little bit slower. I think I would like to just see them concentrate on other things and take other things out. Like concentrate on the full possession process. Like that is something I want to see.
Right.
I don't want to just assume that the girls walked down to some creepy tunnel, did some like little thing with a lighter and a necklace, and like called it a day. Like show me the whole process of that. Spend 20 minutes on that, 15 minutes, 10 minutes even, and then take like the whole 20-minute sequence of them being at the hospital, of them getting like pictures taken, their mouth swabbed. Like that's the stuff you can just say, cool, they were at the hospital, and then just cut to them being at home and kind of trying to deal with the process. I know what they did at the hospital.
I don't know if
the pictures, like that's kind of the stuff that I think that should be implied.
I don't know if I completely agree with that, because that does like mirror the original again as well too, and like the part of it is supposed to be the horror of the hospital and not really like they're not necessarily on your side. It's also supposed to be like this is also invasive. And again, you haven't done anything wrong. This is just something that is now happening to you. Like if it was me, you cut the Ellen Burstyn role, and you keep the hospital part. But I understand where you're talking about.
That was my example.
Yeah.
But yeah, anywhere you want to cut it, concentrate on other things, and I think your 151 will start to feel like a 130.
I'm with you 100%.
As far as a pacing aspect.
Yep.
Can agree with you on that one there. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I don't care what the length of any movie is, but show me, like you said, they didn't earn a 151. Give me the right pacing. Show me where you're going to put it. Because some movies out there don't seem like they're 3 hours. Like when I watch Lord of the Rings, again, biased, but like I don't feel like I sat down for 3 hours.
Right. And what makes it interesting, right, is to the point I was talking about earlier, because I agree with you, Ty, is that the runtime, like they don't earn the 151 because like there's so much exposition dumping. You would think that the film is fucking 90 minutes long,
right?
Because there's so much exposition dumping in terms of them detailing, like I said, the Ellen Burstyn character detailing basically the final act of how they're gonna have to go about the exorcism and things of that nature.
Yep.
As far as Catherine's parents, where they talk about, or it's after the church scene. And they're sitting outside, and she's basically like, well, our kids were gone for 3 days, and Jesus was dead for 3 days, then rise on the third day. Like, there's just so much shit that they don't leave any of that stuff up to the viewer to figure out, right? So, yeah, I'm with you, man. It's tough. But I do love Ann Dowd. Ann Dowd is awesome in this. Leslie Odom Jr. is awesome in this. Pretty much the entire cast is
I think it's great that her name is just Ann.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nurse Ann. Yeah, so that was cool. I was really happy to see her on screen. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, hey, there we go.
It's a truth universally acknowledged. If you're gonna have a horror movie, you got to have at least one good character actor that you can just center everything on.
Yeah.
In Hereditary, it's Ann Dowd. In this, it's Ann Dowd.
Yeah, she's awesome. She did what she could with the role. But even with her role, or not, she does awesome. But I think it's just more so the directing of David Gordon Green, where there's the scene where I forgot what happens, but they walk back into the room where the possessed body's been, and you can see her like being like nauseous, right? Like covering her mouth and her nose.
Oh yeah.
It's basically a hint like, oh yeah, this smells like shit. But then just for somebody else to be like, oh my God, this smells so bad in here.
Yeah.
It's just like stuff like that just
Yeah.
it drives me crazy, bro. It's like, I don't know, man. It's like the movie was written for 12-year-olds.
Oh, and I
So-
did manage to catch a little bit of credits afterwards. Apparently, Danny McBride was an executive producer of
Is he
this. So
really?
if that says anything
wow.
too, yeah.
Yeah, he and David Gordon Green work on everything together. He's got a story writing credit on this as well too. But he's
Oh,
all
he does.
he's all over the he did the whole Halloween together as well too. And Gordon Green also works with him, and I think the other guy is Jolie something. They all work on Righteous Gemstones and all of that together. Like they're kind of a crew of production.
Got it. One of the first things I saw on IMDb about this from like a person's review was someone tell Green to please stop making movies or horror movies.
I don't know if it's
Yeah,
that bad
I'm
yet,
not gonna
but
lie.
his next one
fuck,
has to
fellas.
be above a 7 out of 10 for me.
I just want him to do something that's original. Like if I want to see what he does when it's not a known
An existing IP.
brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
That'd be cool. I mean, I don't know. He seems like these
To
horror
your,
flicks.
to your
so-
point, though, Adam, I mean, obviously, this is obviously been greenlit for a trilogy. I have a hard time thinking his next film is greater than a 7.5 out of 10 if we're basing it off this trilogy.
We'll see, man.
Right.
Yeah.
There'd have to be a lot of changes in that second film
I
for
think,
this to kind of
like,
revive.
Him in particular, he's got a really interesting thing where he kind of very much celebrates and is interested in normal people. Like this is set in Percy, Georgia, place I've never heard of, but like not a place I necessarily
Right.
think about a lot. And like he's very interested in like these suburban American life and that kind of thing. And I think that is an interesting part. And like he's one of the few people that is working kind of like in that realm today.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is not the franchise for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think something he focuses on a ton, which is the driving part of this film, and it's probably gonna be the driving part of this trilogy as well as the Halloween trilogy, that I can commend him for, even though I don't really think it hits the right way. But it's just like the inclusiveness of like a community and trying to overcome something.
Yeah.
Which is cool, right? Because you don't see that a ton in horror movies. It's usually like one man army, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like me and my partner versus the biggest evil we can come across.
Yeah.
So that is cool that he has that going for him. I mean, I think that's a tough stick to land. But he's at least trying for it. So I can't commend him on that.
All right. So we see where it ranks.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
I want to say one last thing.
Let's do it.
Go for it.
I know this is a movie. I know things happen in the movie for the sake of there being a movie. But maybe, just maybe, don't go on a vacation to Haiti when you're 8.5 months pregnant. That's all I'm going to say.
Baby Moon.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, maybe save it for the honeymoon. I don't know. Or I guess, yeah, baby moon. It was whatever.
Maybe it was like a long-term trip, and it's just like they were so excited like 9 months ago, and now they're like super pregnant.
We just
because it
gotta
was just
go.
like a 9-month hiatus, like backpacking.
Yeah. Maybe reschedule. I don't know. But again, things happen for a movie. If that didn't happen, we don't have the movie we have. Regardless, welcome back, listeners who skipped over the spoiler segment of the podcast. We're going to go ahead and throw the Exorcist Believer up upon our Entropy list. For those of you who do not know, the Entropy list is our big list of all the movies we have reviewed compared to one another. It's essentially how we rate our movies. If you want to see the Entropy list for yourself, you can do so by checking the episode description where it is linked to my Letterboxd.
Okay. So looking here on our Entropy list. A thing that jumps out at me first and foremost is Evil Dead Rise over at 106. Now that is kind of similar in that it's a older franchise being re-brought back and kind of direct sequel in some ways.
Scream and Halloween also come to mind for me.
Scream and Halloween are also in there. The other thing I would bring up is Last Voyage of the Demeter as well too. Obviously, other horror movies we've all done this year. But looking at kind of the other stuff that we have around there too, we got Blind Spotting, we got Tenet, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think those are all of a cut above this. So then I think, all right, what are some other stuff we got on here? And then I see Candyman down at 121. That's another Lego sequel that, again, is kind of a reboot of a franchise. And that's more where I think I probably have this one. Maybe I'll go 124, right below Godzilla v. Kong, right above Renfield. And that would put it 5 above Halloween Ends. And that's going to put it but below Lightyear and like Matrix Resurrections, Bodies, and that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to put it. 124.
I'll just go because you took the number right out of my mouth.
Also 124?
Yeah. I would argue that this is better than Bodies.
Sure.
And Men. But Last Voyage of Demeter, I would actually probably watch again before I watch this for a second rewatch. Candyman, I actually don't hate as much as maybe the general population. And I have like a very fond fear, like a memory fear of Candyman as a kid, the original Candyman. So I think that one draws me a little bit closer. So yeah, and then I was thinking about like Mortal Kombat, King Kong, Godzilla. So I was like, man. So I was like, all right, cool, 124. So yeah, that's where I ended up.
I have my spot, and I think it's kind of funny because I'm the only one to recommend it, but I am lower than you guys. I'm going all the way down at 129, below The Flash and above Halloween Ends.
Wow.
Of course, remember everybody. Let me remind you, I was the highest on The Flash by quite a bit.
Yep.
And now I do think this edges out Halloween Ends just a little bit. And then Uncharted, Greatest Showman, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like those are all movies I'm very comfortable putting below this one. But then the ones that kill me are Forgetting Sarah Marshall and A Quiet Place Part 2. A Quiet Place Part 2 is sunk on this list. I don't think it deserves to be quite as low as it should be.
Man.
Yeah.
That's just a movie.
I was going to challenge the group. Is like, you guys, you're picking this over A Quiet Place Part 2. I mean, obviously, I didn't think it was as good as the first one.
I'm not, but there's other sacrifices up there.
I guess, personally, I would rather watch this than Quiet Place Part 2.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Like Quiet Place was a idea I thought was good with the first one. Didn't need a sequel, and the sequel, I've just never thought about that movie. Like going back to it again afterwards.
Yeah, if they would have stopped Quiet Place after the first one, it would hold so much more value.
Yep.
The second one makes the first one worse.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
But I am interested in that other one that the dude that made Pig is doing. So they probably made me pull me back in for that one. So who knows?
All right, but yeah, I'm still at 129. Can't talk me out of it. Blake, where are you putting it?
Man, honestly, fellas, I'm a ways below you all. A Quiet Place Part 2 kind of jumped out to me. I'm obviously just kind of looking at like horror to horror, right, to see where we're ranking these things. I see Halloween Ends and Halloween Kills at 129 and 136. And that's where I was kind of like, okay, I do TD this film probably somewhere along the lines of Halloween Kills when you ask me how could I rank these 4, right? It's probably 3 or 4. And then I'm seeing like Antlers at 141. And I was like, okay, this has more redeeming qualities than Antlers, I would say. All those Antlers did have a monster design, which is awesome. So, I mean,
cool monster for sure.
Yeah, with the Wendigo.
That is again a movie I forget exists constantly, though.
For sure. One I had a ton of expectations for.
Yeah,
and just kind of let me down, right? The mother of all evil. But then, honestly, fellas, when I'm looking down and I'm going down this list, and I see High Tension at 156, I cannot put this film above High Tension. I'm sorry. There's just no way.
Wow.
Damn.
I can't.
Line in the sand.
Wow.
Yeah, and I know High Tension is sunk on this list for sure due to one person. We don't have to name any names.
I will keep it sunk on this list.
We all know who it is. But there's just no way, man. The horror lover in me, the horror community, you'd be an outcast to put Exorcist Believer over High Tension. You know what I mean? So I can't do that.
I appreciate it.
Do I like this more than The Purge, though? I mean, probably.
All right.
I guess. Right? So I think I'll go 157. But High Tension, no way. Even the third Conjuring, I think it's debatable in my opinion.
I don't
Not a
think
fan of
it's
that movie, but I
debatable.
think
I
it's,
definitely don't think it's
I
debatable.
think they're in the same ballpark.
No,
Really?
no, I
Yeah,
don't think
not for
that one's
me.
debatable. I think that one deserves to be at 154. Yeah,
Another
Fair enough.
line drawn in the sand.
yeah.
Yeah, I do think that movie's bad though. To your all point,
It is
where I also
bad.
think
This
Exorcist
movie
Believer
is not
bad,
that
but-
bad.
Okay,
All right. Well, where does it put us?
Where'd you put it officially, Blake?
154.
154.
I'm going 157.
Oh, sorry,
Or-
157.
157. Okay,
Idiot.
I'm trying to push it up.
that puts us at 133.5.
So that would tie break it with Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Yeah, it's a hard no for me, boys.
I'm taking Godzilla.
Yeah, I would watch
that's
Godzilla
a hard
10 out
no
of 10
for
times
sure.
over this movie. I'm down.
I'll be in Exorcist corner, but yeah, that's fair enough. I get outvoted there. So put it at 130.
Get a King Ghidorah on the big screen.
134 there.
134 below Godzilla, King of Monsters, above Don't
Worry, Darling. Well, that's funny. I think I'd like Don't Worry, Darling more maybe, but whatever. Okay, well, that's it for that. 134. We'll leave it there. Our next review is going to be, we're going to keep it rolling with the horror, of course, month of October. It's horror month. We're going to keep it rolling with the review of Us, Jordan Peele's Us.
Completing our Jordan Peele
Of course, completing our Jordan Peele little
trilogy,
if you will.
a triptych.
Is that what you call it?
A triptych is the type of painting where it's 3 different paintings that all form one,
Okay.
basically. But here I'm using it rather than.
I think that's a very good term to use.
yeah, rather than
That
like,
master's degree. Look at it go.
little art history for you.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we'll be doing Us. That is currently streaming on Netflix. So most people should have access to that, unless you're Tyler Vidalis.
Yeah, banned from Netflix.
Banned from right.
Tyler, I bought it on Vudu. You can just watch it on my Vudu, bro.
Even
Oh, I
Tyler
bet.
Vidalis. And listeners, just write into Blake, and he'll give you his Voodoo
Mr.
password.
Water Cooler.
Yeah.
I have
$5.
I have Blake Flicks.
Blake Flicks, love it.
Here we go.
Big Blake Flicks.
Big fix. All right. What we're watching here, gentlemen, we got some time. What are you guys watching? Why don't you guys discuss while I'm in the bathroom real quick? I'll be back.
Okay.
I was gonna say I'm gonna take a quick stand up real quick.
Okay,
so.
Nathaniel and Blake, you guys want to just pause and come back? Little bathroom break?
No, that's fine. I'll
All right,
check
all right,
quickly.
I'll be fast.
One thing I did rewatch. Shout out Kayla.
Ooh.
At the store, we were talking to her. Got her to watch The Descent. With her
Ayo.
husband. Actually, I think her husband backed out, to my understanding. I think she ended up watching it by herself. But I ended up rewatching that last night. I love that movie, bro.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good movie.
That movie's so good, man. It's just one of those where even like knowing what's happening and even the claustrophobia, I still caught myself at like the 45 minute. I'm like watching the movie like tensed. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I'm like, oh man, this is good.
Is anybody
and then
there?
Yeah. And then as we keep saying though, because watching it, how it plays in the first like hour, you're pretty much like, okay, is this a monster flick or is it just them stuck in caves?
Right.
Because you don't even see a monster. It's like an hour and 2 minutes in.
Right.
Is the first time you're legitimately like, okay, somebody's not hallucinating.
Right.
There are monsters down here. And the movie's only like an hour and 30 minutes. So like it's a long buildup of that tension. So yeah, man, that movie's awesome, man. I love that movie a ton. Honestly, still feel like it might be a little shorted on the entry
old
list, to be
entropy
honest with you, man.
I'd stand beside that.
But yeah, the next one I got to get up there is High Tension, man. Like I'm sorry, bro. I could not put this film above High Tension.
That's
There's
fair.
no
I understand.
way.
Yeah, a little peek behind the curtain. I did have some of the Blake thoughts spoiled because I saw your review on Letterboxd as well too. So I had a feeling it wasn't going to be a high one for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, The Descent, always good choice. High Tension, I feel like pretty good as well too. There's going to be some Halloween classics that we can always talk about. Trick or Treat, give that
Trick
a
or
watch
Treat.
for the
I was
Halloween
close
season.
to getting to Suspiria, man, the original
That's
one.
right. You did say that you were going
I
to
was
watch that,
close
right?
to really, really getting it. It's on my list for October.
It's on Tubi,
and
if
I
I'm
almost
not
put it
mistaken.
on the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So,
is one, man. If
Have
any,
you seen that?
yes, yeah, I own it actually.
Did you see the remake?
Yes,
The
yeah,
2018?
I like that one a lot
Okay.
too. Have you seen that?
No, I have not. I haven't seen either one of them. I want to watch the original before I watch the remake.
Okay,
though.
so very different movies. I'll tell you that between the two of them. First one is just kind of like Technicolor insanity show. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, they say it's beautifully shot.
It is.
And the color palette is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very vivid, very neon. It's super cool to look at. Makes murder look very beautiful, all that good stuff. But like in terms of a plot / story, it is very much a vibes movie for sure. In the way that only 70s Italian horror movies can.
For sure.
Can
for
be.
Sure.
But yeah, definitely recommend for all you horror heads out there. Check out Suspiria.
Yeah. Did you like the remake?
I did like the remake. Yeah, it's a very different movie as well too. Much more. It's set in a different time period, but still kind of the same location, and kind of a very like the first one is this. Talking again of color palettes, like very day glow, vivid color palette, and the remake is this very kind of muted, almost kind of sickly looking movie, but it ties in well with the theme, and it's another one that's a little bit of a slow burn, not something I'm gonna recommend for folks to like catch with bunch of buddies watching over and want to watch a horror movie in Halloween. But if you're in for like a dark, kind of creepy movie, for sure, Suspiria, both versions pretty good.
Gotcha.
In terms of what I've been watching, really my big thing for this week was rewatching the original Exorcist. That's not gonna come as too much of a shock for folks. I definitely wanted to rewatch that going in. I think now rewatching it, I had only ever seen the 2000 edition director's cut of the Exorcist, which I think adds about 4 or 5 minutes. But the version that's streaming on HBO Max is the original theatrical version. So that is a little bit different as well too. So I got to watch that this week, and yeah, man, audiences in the 70s must have been losing their freaking minds.
Yeah, I forgot to note that too. I did catch this as well, but I caught it after The Exorcist Believer.
Sure.
Should have watched it beforehand. But yeah, me and you chatted about it on text for a little bit. Yeah, good movie, classic as well. Honestly, this is only the second time I've seen it though.
Yeah.
In its totality, seen pieces like late at night watching HBO when I'm in like 8th grade. Of oh shit, this is the scariest movie ever. I'm gonna watch this. You know what I mean? But as far as like sitting down and digesting the entire film, only twice. How many times do you think you've seen The Exorcist with that?
Oh, probably only about 3 or 4, I'd say in total, maybe. It's one I didn't watch until I was probably 19 or 20 and like full. It was definitely one that like I knew about, and I wanted to be like, I want to have a film brain before I watch this. And yeah, I mean, obviously, shout out to William Friedkin. He just passed, I think, within the last month or so. Director of the original Exorcist. Definitely a old school director. Knew what he wanted and was awesome about it. So, shout out Billy Friedkin. Adam, what you been watching?
Watched the original Exorcist, as I mentioned earlier. Was a little underwhelmed, but to be expected. I mean, a horror movie in the 70s is not going to be the same as a horror movie in 2023. So, like, was a little underwhelmed in that sense, but still can appreciate that had done at the time.
Have you? Yeah, I was gonna say, had you like escaped all of childhood with not having like the Reagan imagery spoiled for you or anything like that?
I mean, I've seen clips from it and stuff, so like I kind of knew what to expect. I do have a question. I could have sworn The Exorcist, I've seen clips where like she's walking
down
on the walls,
the spider walk down the stairs.
Yes.
So that's from the director's cut.
Of the original?
Yeah, of the original.
Oh.
So that scene was originally filmed, but they lost the negative of it, and they found it for the remaster, basically, and had it on there. Yeah,
because I was waiting for that to happen.
Spider walks down the stairs.
Yeah, because I was waiting for that to happen and never did.
Yeah, and I think it was in like the original trailers or something like that. That's why it's kind of famous as well too.
Got it.
And then obviously the demon face that like most people forget that Reagan is not the demon. The real demon is Pazuzu, the white-faced demon that you see in just kind of the
flashes.
The flashes and the clips. Yeah.
Right.
Which in and of itself is terrifying.
That is terrifying. Yeah, I saw that. And that has a very eerie effect even today with the flashing of the frames, and it just kind of gets ingrained on your retina for a second.
Yeah.
Very effective. Yeah. Lots of zooms, as I mentioned. So many zooms.
Well, they didn't have a Steadicam yet. So
Correct,
that
yeah.
whole sequence of them going up the stairs is just a cameraman running beside them,
Yeah.
basically. So yeah, it's an impressive movie.
Overall, pretty good. Glad I watched it before this one. It made some connections to this one, and the stylization too makes sense now. But yeah, I overall enjoyed it. A little long on the long side, but again, it's a movie from the 70s. I knew what to expect, and it was what I expected. Keeping up with Jujutsu Kaisen. I shouldn't say keeping up, catching up on Jujutsu Kaisen. Not too much further in. I think I'm only on episode 7 or 8 at this point, so it's slow pace for me, but I'm staying steady on it. But I've been liking it so far. Each episode, I kind of get more and more into it. I'm waiting for, I think I mentioned the last time I was talking about it. I'm waiting for a hook.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it to go like, okay, this is the reason so many people like it. And I can feel that coming. It's just, I'm not quite there yet. They're still in the point of the show where they're kind of getting you explained to the universe and how jujitsus work and all that stuff. So I'm waiting for that to settle down, and I'm sure it'll ramp up from there. But I'm enjoying it so far. I'm going to keep going. The nice thing is there's not a ton to catch up on, but then the 3rd season is debuting right now. So hopefully I can catch up kind of by the time that's done airing. But yeah, staying steady with that. Watched Missouri lose to LSU in a terrible loss.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah, bad loss, very bad loss. But that's Missouri football, man. Just can't pull out close games against big opponents like that. Rarely ever do. And that's kind of the next step we have to take as a program as a whole, is when those games are tight like that, we just don't have experience closing them out. It happened last year. All of our close 1-loss games last year were just losses like that, and it was very reminiscent of that. So if we can just get disciplined, stop getting false starts on 3rd downs, that could help us out a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think I've watched anything else major in the past week or so. Tyler, what you been watching?
Football.
Bear down.
Yeah, I've been watching a decent amount of the NFL, which has been nice.
Fair enough.
Catching more games. Investing a little bit more time into fantasy, so that's nice. Seeing as I'm only playing one team this year.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's been good. Been kind of scooting around on I always want to say Reno 911, but it's Brooklyn 99.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I've been cruising around on that still every now and then when I just need to have some kind of on the background, or while I'm doing dishes or something like that.
I want to talk about a show I haven't thought about in a long time. Reno 911. Holy shit, that's a throwback.
Killer show.
That feels like something that should be on like a Netflix or a Hulu, and like just
for sure.
gaining new fans all the time. Yeah.
A bunch of people would be like, "Well, I didn't know the show was so great."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or it's one of those ones that's aged horribly, and we're all like, "How the fuck did we like this?"
Yeah, it could go one of two ways. It's like the beginning of Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Right.
That is
there's
totally
rough.
different. Yeah. so yeah, there's some rough couple episodes of that show. But yeah, there was a Grand Prix this weekend. That was fun to get back into racing, even though we all know what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
But always fun to just have my race weekends. Just make me happy.
It's true.
And then that was really it. My one of my other little sisters got engaged over the weekend.
Congrats.
Oh,
Congrats. It's Sam.
Congrats, Sam.
So so there was a little engagement party at the bowling alley where my whole friend group and family conjugates during the summer.
Shout out Kingston.
Yeah, he knows. This guy knows. But yeah, and currently, I don't know. We were also talking about just kind of what we have on in the background while we're doing this, and for some odd reason, I scrolled and found The Village and said, "Sure, why not?"
There you go.
So that's currently what I have on in the background right now, which I might get some hate for, but whatever.
Man, that was a movie that when I saw the trailers for that, I was probably 4th or 5th grade, and I was like, "That is the scariest freaking movie I've ever seen." That was right after. Was that the one right after Signs? Signs scared the piss out of me as a kid, man.
Signs is still one of those movies that I'm like, hey, yo,
Yeah, that one will get you.
Facts.
All right, well,
But yeah, that's all I got.
next week we got us.
Yeah. Next week is us. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you guys share the podcast, share with a friend, a family member.
If any
a
listeners
possessed one.
want to write in with horror movie recommendations for the pod, or even just for us to watch in our spare time during
Right.
October, I'm definitely looking for some more horror movies to add to my list this year. So let us know, folks, if you got something on the back burner that maybe we haven't come across or something.
While you're at it, send us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I think is doing reviews now for podcasts too.
Yep.
So yeah, send us a 5-star review on either of those platforms. If you do, we'll read it out loud on pod. Follow us on Twitter at Banter Row, on Instagram at Back Row Banter Pod, and our YouTube is just Back Row Banter. BlakeHolder, where can the people find you at, my man?
Yo, Letterboxd, BlakeHolder. I'll be on there logging some things, rating them out of 5 stars. I've also recently purchased MK1.
Hey.
So I only bought it on PlayStation though. Did not buy it on Xbox. So PlayStation, MK1, Mr. Watercoolers. I'm on there. Learning though, that game is hard as fuck, fellas.
Is it?
So yeah, and I guess most fighting games are hard when you do it right. You got
Right.
combos, gaps, plus frames, all the nerd shit, right? That I enjoy of fighting games. So yeah, it's an uphill battle. I can't imagine myself being like a decent player to probably a few months in for sure. But yeah, so far pretty good, and it looks beautiful too. So yeah, that's all I got. We'll pass it to we'll go to Ty.
Twitter, X Twitter, Letterboxd, Instagram are all Tyler Dallas. And hopefully, maybe, I don't know. We'll talk about the stream. I want to get a new monitor.
Well, I'm also looking at a new monitor. We should discuss.
We should.
But I
yeah,
actually need to
'cause,
decide like tonight because we'll talk after the pod. I'm getting it tomorrow, I think. But
Are you? Yeah, I'm still gonna wait a little bit.
my warranty's
But,
running out on it, so I kind of got to exchange it tomorrow.
Got it. Mine were both bought open box for a really great price. And,
Okay.
that's what we'll end it.
All right.
So yeah. But those are the places you can find me. Nathaniel.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd at nsgangrick. You can find me on Instagram at NathanielG92. I don't have MK Ultra, but for all my nerd shit fighting, or MK1, not MK Ultra, that's a different thing. That's a that's the government CIA program.
Easily mistaken.
Yeah, basically the same
basically
thing.
the same thing.
But
We're so close.
I am a fighting nerd, and obviously, late breaking news. My boy Chucky Olives has to withdraw from his fight with Islam Makhachev. So
Chucky Olives.
his name's Charles Oliveira.
Got it.
Yeah. So 145, Alex Volkanovski, our boy. Collectively, I've decided for you guys.
Okay.
He's our boy.
I watched this fight.
Yeah, he's going up on 11 days' notice to fight the 155 champ.
Oh,
so
that is very short notice.
it is indeed. So yeah, good luck to our boy Alex. But yeah, that's all my social media crap. Who's left? Adam?
Yeah, that's me. You can find me on Twitter at H24 and on Letterboxd at H. That's AYYSH. That's going to do it here for episode 165, our review of The Exorcist Believer. Thank you all for listening, especially if you've made it this far into the podcast. You're my favorite type of listener, and we really do appreciate it. Join us next week for our review of Us. We'll be RB.
Be excellent to each other, everyone. We'll be RB.
Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate anything you do, have done, will do. I don't know, maybe you're planning on doing something, but if it's about us growing, we appreciate it. And yeah, just keep passing on love, and we'll be RB.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. We wouldn't be able to continue this podcast if it wasn't for you, as we always say. So we'll keep it pushing as long as we got to report. Thanks a lot. We'll be RB.
America. Ready for another lesson.
I have a
Adam, are you still rolling on that Drake album, man? I think it was you
No.
and You and somebody else were trying.
I don't even know if I
made.
made it all the way through. I think I made one listen through all the way through, and then I went back to do a second listen through, and I think I stopped halfway.
I have never been a Drake guy.
Really? How come?
He always felt like he was better on singles than on albums,
Sure.
and I just never really I will listen to all of his songs when we're out at a club. I probably know
Yeah.
them or something like
Yeah.
that, but I will never put them on for myself
Right.
to like listen to. I'm
Sure.
never like, oh, I'm in the mood for Drake now.
Right.
It's just kind
Sure.
of like if I want. I don't know. I think in the battle between Kendrick and Drake, I was Team Kendrick at that time, and it was just like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going that way.
Yeah, I used to be much bigger on Drake than I am now. I think the more he releases music of this quality with his last album, the less I like him. And like he will always be relevant and he will always be a name in music that we carry forward even after he's done making music. Like he's already cemented that for himself. But to me, I think he keeps diluting his discography and diluting the quality of his music as he releases more and more. His last albums, Her Loss is the one, his album before this one, was his best album since Views, in my opinion. So that came out last year in 22, and that was his best album since Views, which came out in 2016. So like and then there was like 3 or 4, maybe 5 projects between those two albums. And none of them were all that great. To me, it's like every album he releases, you're right. There's those singles that come off of them that are very, very good. But by and large, a lot of the songs end up sounding the same, and his raps are usually about the same random stuff, and it's like the same subject matter, and just I don't know. The songs that are good off of the albums that I feel like he actually puts effort into, I still really, really enjoy, and there are songs on this last album that are like that. But by and large, like a majority of his projects in the last 7 years have just been very meh to me and filled with just a lot of quantity and not quality. And I think when you're Drake, it should be the other way around. But instead, it just feels like he's kind of just seeing what sticks at this point, and he's just kind of pumping out music and pumping out features and stuff. And it just, I don't know. He's fallen off for me for sure.
According to the boys, we lost audio on their side. We heard me and you.
Interesting.
But we didn't hear them. Can you guys hear us now?
No, it's going through the laptop now. I don't know what happened. Ellie Dog might have hit something.